Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar on storytelling and authentically captivating customers with our guest host, Chris Foster. Chris is VP New Business at Modern Postcard, a national direct marketing company that services businesses of all sizes and in all markets. He's passionate about helping any size business craft marketing and branding strategies to better engage their audience. In addition to leading the creation and execution of new business strategies at Modern, he continues to teach brand strategy at UC San Diego Extension since 2009. Chris is a contributing author for Target Marketing Magazine and Nonprofit Pro. He's also hosted hosted webinars and presented at numerous professional conferences nationally. Welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to hand the reins over to you now.
Great. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate being a part of this, and welcome in everybody. Happy Thursday, and welcome to Storytelling for Business. This is part 2. So little housekeeping notes. Ask questions in the chat and the like. I think the administrators are going to be managing those questions. If there's something pertinent that should be answered in the moment, they can pause me and I can do it, or we can wait until the very end to go over those. I also will be turning my video off during the presentation for better bandwidth, and then I'll come back on afterwards for the Q&A session. And we are going to dive right in. We are going to have some YouTube videos towards the end, and we are going to jump in. All right, so we are at Storytelling for Business. I am Chris Foster. Like she said, I am VP of New Business Development here at Modern and instructor at UCSD Extension. So if you do have folks either on your team or yourself that are looking for some marketing education and some, increased understanding of different ideas, check out UCSD Extension. Their courses are fantastic. Whether it's my course or another course, I highly recommend you checking them out for your own professional development. And we are in the midst of our summer marketing webinar series. That is true. In the Wayback Machine, we had retention strategies. You can chat with your folks at Green Rope about looking at that if you missed it. Today, we're talking about storytelling for business. And then July 22nd, integrating marketing channels. It's kind of a trifecta of different marketing topics that help you as a business simply become better than you are today, right? That's the whole goal of this. How can you learn from other folks, and how can you improve what you're doing? So we're going to get started. We do have a special offer, creating a story arc for your business. You'll see exactly what I mean as we go through it. We'll talk through this story arc itself, and then at the end, there's a special gift that the folks from Green Rope will be sending out. It is an interactive PDF where you can walk through the steps of writing your own story arc. Really helps with all the messaging and your communication and your marketing moving forward. I use it, and you'll see a couple of examples about how that works. So I'm going to stop my video. I will see you on the flip side, and we will jump in. So here's what we know to be true across all cultures, across time and space. Everybody loves a story. Whether it's Gilgamesh or Harry Potter or All Creatures Great and Small, doesn't matter. We've loved stories our entire lives, and human beings have loved stories throughout all cultures and all time. We just have. Hopefully everybody remembers a time when they were younger and mom and or dad and or guardian or brother or uncle or aunt or teacher or friend read you a story when you were little and you loved it. I know you did. We all do. Everyone loves a story. So I'm going to tell a couple of stories in this presentation. The first one is a story of conversion. So part of the class that I do at UCSD Extension is a field trip. So after we go through several lessons and we start talking about brand expression, and it's about kind of after you tell a story, we say, well, let's go to the stores and let's compare the online experience to the in-store experience for a handful of brands. So one of them was Lush, which I love. And one of my students, Stephania, had never been to Lush, ever. And she walked out of there and she goes, oh my gosh, I'm a total convert. I was like, wow, what an interesting word to use. She used convert. It's a very powerful word. right? In marketing, we talk about conversion rates. Really, until that happened, conversion was often in a religious context, right? I converted to Judaism, I converted to Islam, right? And conversion in that sense implies a belief, right? When she said, oh my gosh, I'm a total convert, it wasn't just because she wanted to buy more stuff. She converted to a belief system that aligned with Lush. She started to believe in them a lot more. That's what she meant by conversion. What Lush understands very well is that you invite your customers, invite them in to your belief system, and invite them to believe in what you do. So Lush is famous for fresh handmade cosmetics. They call it their quote unquote naked because they have no preservatives and you can make them, from scratch. You can eat them, et cetera. And so they had their Get Naked campaign, which is kind of fun. But that was so in line with what they did. It wasn't a surprise at all, right? It was absolutely in line with their belief system, so they could get away with it. It was completely authentic. And the story that they were telling just with this, this campaign was a story that rang true to all their users. And one of the, an influential thought leader in the last 10 years is Simon Sinek. I like a lot of what he says. He simplifies a lot of complex concepts. He says, one of the goals is to do business with people who believe what you believe. And once you start connecting with people who believe, that's a much stronger connection to your customer base, much more than a transaction. And one of the reasons it's also becoming so important is that more Generation Zs support businesses who align with their beliefs and causes. I mentioned this last presentation at the tail end about some ways to think about retention strategies, and part of that was perhaps cause. Members of Gen Z are also willing to take that support away too. More than 65% would stop purchasing or supporting a brand that didn't have the same values. So belief systems are really important for consumers and also for brands as well. And the reason that's also so important is that we're overwhelmed. Calculated right now, we get about 4,000 to 10,000 marketing messages a day through all manners of input, right? Digital inputs, browser inputs, mobile app inputs, telemarketing inputs. So many messages are coming at us. And we're also distracted. We spend about 3 hours a day on our phones. And there's a lot going on the phones too, right? A lot of beeps and whistles and alerts and chimes and texts and news alerts and all this stuff that flows through. And one of the things that's been happening now, especially in the digital marketing world, is a concept that they're calling cognitive load. So cognitive load is really pretty simple. An average person can hold 3 to 4 things in your mind at once, right? That makes sense. And doing some of the research for this on working memory and intelligence, so this is one of the articles. I was going through it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what they were talking about. I mean, just look at this for a moment. Look at this. Look at all that stuff in red. Do I show notifications? Do I click on my social? I've got a new ad from Shea Homes. I've got an ad on top of an ad, Science Newsletter, and then Live Science, which is the site that I was on, and then an ad below for Flu Ad, right? All of that stuff is surrounding the content that I'm actually just looking at, right? The content in green is what I was paying attention to. So all that stuff on the outside is either noise or I become ad blind. I don't see it, right? There's too much cognitive load for me to process all of it. The same is true on Facebook, right? So I like to swim. So my friends and I post on our swims and blah, blah, blah. This is a great article on NPR. It is true. You remember things better when you write them down by hand. It's absolutely true. And then I get this. And I get my friend's dog and his beer. I'm like, well, what was that? Oh, that was LL Bean. Now, I love LL Bean. Huge fan of LL Bean. They're a great brand. But man, isn't that tough to compete with all of this stuff that I'm scrolling? How do I connect? Right? How do they do that? And also, the next generation of buyers have really high expectations. I mentioned it again, and I will keep mentioning it because it's so important for everyone in the profession. By 2026, Gen Z will be the largest consumer group. So not only are their causes important, but they are going to have a lot of purchasing power, right? And they have a lot of expectations, and they can totally spot BS. right? This generation, more than any generation, is going to be influenced by reviews, right? Already right now, 88% of buyers are influenced in their decisions by reviews they read. They trust other people more than they trust your marketing message. So not only are they distracted, and not only do they have so much stuff piled on them, but they don't believe you either if you're only talking about transactional information, right? They will believe their friends. So the question that all marketers have, and salespeople and businesses, all right, thanks, Foster. All of this is great. But really, the reason I'm at the webinar is how do you get customers to listen to you? Well, a good answer and a good way is in good news is that everyone loves a story. And so we're going to talk about how story, not only does this sound good, but man, it's one of the most effective ways to reach the brains of human beings, right? Because everyone loves a story. Our brains are hardwired to respond to stories. Just hardwired. It's in the DNA. It's in our makeup. When subjects read a descriptive metaphor rather than plain text, the sensory receptors in the cortex lit up. So what that means is that metaphor is something that we can all understand. One of my favorite Star Trek Next Generation episodes, if anyone's out there, TNG, right? They go to an alien planet, and of course the universal translator makes it that everyone speaks English, right? But they were speaking in a way that no one could understand because they only spoke in metaphor. So they were talking about, our sails are unfurled, meaning that they moved forward, or his eyes are open, meaning, oh, you understand. So they only spoke in metaphor, and I thought it was such a beautiful way to go about it because we all understand metaphors. Every culture understands it. There's something about a metaphor and a storyline that we just seem to get. And cognitive science has long recognized narrative as a basic organizing principle of memory. Accuracy is not the main objective. Coherence is, right? And I look at these, two images, the baby, then the young adult. Baby watches mom and dad from her high chair. Mom and dad's making breakfast, right? It's scrambled eggs, it's bacon, some toast. They're in the kitchen, yik-yakking, maybe a peck on the cheek, some affection. And baby watches this. Baby doesn't remember if it was scrambled eggs or if it was an omelet, if it was bacon or if it was ham. It doesn't matter. Baby remembers family. Baby remembers mom and dad together, being affectionate, making breakfast with baby in kitchen. Baby remembers that. It's the narrative and the story of that moment that matters, not the details. So this is a wonderful statistic, which I completely believe, that messages delivered as stories are 22 times more memorable than just facts. And so one of the things I like to do with this, if you look at the image, this is from the Lascaux Caves. It's about, 30,000 plus years ago. If I asked you, count the number of arrows and then remember the number of arrows at the end of the presentation, you'd be like, oh, okay, maybe. But if I said, really, what's the story in this picture? And if you look on the right-hand side, close to the top, there's a small figure. It's the second figure from the top. That's the story. It's the child's first hunt. It's the moment when the child becomes an adult, right? And it doesn't matter if the child is 10, 11, 12, right? They dealt with Kairos time, which means life experience time, not Chronos time, which is the number of years, right? The boy is old enough to string a bow and go on a hunt. That's how old that boy is, right? The boy becomes the young man. And how important that is as a story for that young boy. And also, even more important is the story for the tribe. Because that young boy going on the first hunt means survival for the tribe, right? Because they have to have the next generation of hunters to know how to do this. So that's the story of this painting. It's not the number of arrows or the antelope. It's the story of the boy on the first hunt. It's the story of the transition to adulthood. It's the story of survival of the tribe, the next generation that feed and protects, and to teach them how to do that. generation after generation after generation. That's the story. And I guarantee you that's what you'll remember at the end of this presentation, not the number of arrows. You remember the story about the boy on his first hunt. And the beautiful thing about this is that you can use stories to reach the brains of your customers. And there's a biological reason that stories connect so deeply with us. It's not just my opinion, it's actually biology. The biology of the brain, in real layman's terms. I'm not a brain scientist. I'm not a biologist, but I think it's interesting. But I do know the diagrams are real. So you have the cerebral cortex at the top, and in the middle, you have the amygdala and the hippocampus. So the cerebral cortex is words, reasoning, and planning. It's the last part of our brain to develop. That's why teenagers sometimes are so goofy, right? When my daughter came home with one shoe, I was like, wait a minute, you have one shoe? Uh-huh. Well, where's the other shoe? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You only have one shoe. How does this happen? I don't know, right? Clearly your cerebral cortex is not fully developed. That's okay. That's okay. Everyone gets through that. But what I love about this image is the amygdala and the hippocampus. So the amygdala is the emotion and the hippocampus is long-term memory. Biologically, not psychologically, biologically, look at them. They are right next to each other. They're physically, biologically next to each other. Emotion and long-term memory are touching each other inside your brain. That's why everyone here on this call remembers their first kiss, right? Your first meaningful kiss. You remember that because there's an emotion and a memory tied into that moment. You never forget it. I guarantee you that you forgot one of the emails that you received on Tuesday at 11:15 a.m. Guaranteed. But you don't forget your first kiss, and that happened a long time ago. That's because emotion and long-term memory at the core of our brain. And emotional responses to what we read may help determine what we remember, right? These are the things. That's why reading is so powerful. It's why print marketing is so powerful as a note. But when you read these things, and you engage with these kinds of stories, this is what you remember because there's an emotional tie-in. Speaking of emotional tie-in, I'll do my second story. This is a story of love. This is absolutely a true story. So while the photograph is not of my neighbor Eileen, the dog looks an awful lot like my neighbor Eileen's dog, Carson. And Carson was getting old. Beautiful golden retriever, very old, been with Eileen forever. And Eileen and Carson would go on their adventures, and Eileen drove this monster of a Volvo. I mean, this thing was a tank, one of those old school Volvo station wagons, like a big steel box on wheels. Like this thing was massive. And Carson loved it, right? Because she would open up the back, the seats were down, Carson would hop in, there were blankets and everything, and they would go off on their stuff. And and Eileen would complain about the car. And I'm like, Eileen, man, this car's like from the 1920s. What's the deal? And she's like, well, I know, I should get a new car. It's time. But Carson loves this car. I'm not going to get a new car until Carson passes. And so, Carson got old and he finally passed, sadly. And then Eileen drives up in a brand new car. And I was like, oh, Eileen, I teach brand strategy. I gotta know, why did you buy this car? And she said, well, I had a choice. I was looking at the Ford Escape and the Subaru Forester Outback, right? And great, great, great cars. I love these cars. And the Ford had a better warranty and a lower price. And everything about these cars were just about the same. They were just about equal, like gas mileage and blah, blah, blah. But the Ford had a better warranty for service and a lower price. And I said, yeah? She goes, well, see, Subaru, they're running these ads. These ads have these dogs. I don't know, they look a lot like Carson, and they have water bowls in their showrooms, right? I was like, uh-huh, keep going. So as she went through, she said, okay, well, Ford's got this better warranty and a lower price. But this Subaru really reminds me of Carson, right? So here it is. Here is the brain making this decision. your cerebral cortex, the words, the reasoning, the planning is better warranty and a lower price. Your amygdala, your hippocampus, your emotion and long-term memory. Well, that's Carson, right? So which car did she buy? Of course. She bought the Subaru. Of course she did. Why is that? Carson always wins. Always. 100 out of 100 times, Carson always wins. Especially when it comes to consumer products and B2B. Memory and emotion always wins over reasoning and planning. Always. There's a gut feel. There's it just feels right. Whatever it is, that's that memory and emotion. It's in your brain. And the reason why stories are so powerful is that stories, good stories, inherently are memorable and emotional. So this is one of my favorite books. It's Mari Sendak, Where the Wild Things Are. You know, Max was making mischief of one kind and another in his wolf suit, and he broke a little vase, and Mom said, off to bed, into your bedroom, Max, you're too crazy. And Max said, I'll eat you up. And she's like, off to your bedroom. So he goes in, and then suddenly the room transforms. Leaves grow, grass grows, and suddenly a whole world emerges. And he takes a boat, goes across an ocean, and lands into the land of where the wild things are, right? And the way the story unfolds, the book unfolds, is that the illustrations are very small at first. I gotta go. And then they get larger and larger. They start as small vignettes, and then they get to quarter page, and then half page. And then here, he's let the wild rumpus begin with all the wild things. It's the full double truck spread. And then, of course, afterwards, it's like, oh, this is great. I've got to go. This is wonderful. I kind of miss home. And he takes a sailboat home and goes back home. The room comes back to his normal room. And the pictures get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then finally, it's a small little vignette. And, you know, his supper's there and the soup was still hot. It's the story of a temper tantrum. It's the story of the child going to where the wild things are and then calming down and coming back home. It's an incredible story. And I read that when my mom read it to me, I don't know, probably 5. I'm like, 86 years old now. So, I mean, you remember it though. These stories are memorable and emotional, which is the first helpful thing about storytelling. And the other big helpful thing about storytelling is that stories have a simple structure we all understand. Whether it's, like I said, it's Star Wars, or whether it's the Raven story from Native American legend and lore, to Baba Yaga, doesn't matter. Stories have a simple structure and we all understand it. It begins with a hero. So whether you're Carol Danvers or Elizabeth Bennet, the Joad family from The Grapes of Wrath, of course, Max, Anansi the Spider King, doesn't matter. You have a hero. And the first thing the hero encounters is a villain, right? And whether it's Wickham or it's Darth Vader, right? Jan Rog or the Dust Bowl, right? There's a villain. Now, the best thing about the best villains too are not just a single person. The best villains also represent something bigger than themselves, something darker and that not only affects our hero, but other heroes and other people like the hero. So in the lower right-hand corner is the photo of the Dust Bowl. The Grapes of Wrath is about the Dust Bowl. And what the story does is it follows the Joad family as they move from Oklahoma to California, but then it peels out and talks broadly about the mass migration. And along the way, the Joads encounter mean police people, bad farmer bosses, union horribles, just bad folks, right? But that really wasn't that was not the villain, and they were not the villains. The big villain was the system that they couldn't control. The Joad family, they were sharecroppers. They had a field that they didn't own. The bank owned the field. And in the early 1900s, as settlers, or American settlers, kind of went west, and they ripped up all the prairie grass and they planted cotton, which was terrible for water and in terms of draining the nutrients of the soil. So as climate, started to adjust and winds came through, and it just ripped up all the plants that were there because they ripped up all the grass. There's nothing holding the crops down. The Dust Bowl became worse and worse, and it was just an untenable situation to live in. But the Jodes couldn't control any of that. They didn't own their own land. They didn't do any of that stuff. It's a system that they couldn't control. That was the villain, right? A bigger system that was influencing their lives. So the best villains are the big villains, right? Darth Vader's a villain, yeah, but the dark side of the Force. Now that's a villain. That's a villain. Of course, the hero meets a mentor. You've got a villain, but thankfully there's always a mentor in the story. Always, right? Gandalf, Yoda, right? Mentors. And then the hero embarks on a journey. 100 out of 100 times. Some type of path, some type of journey, wandering, being called to action, however that is, they move along. And at the end of this journey, of course, the hero undergoes a transformation, right? That's just how it goes. Every single story is exactly the same. You have a hero faces a villain, they meet a mentor, go on a journey, and finally undergo a transformation. Every story is like that. And as human beings, we all understand that because inherently each one on this call and every person you meet at some point wants to be a better version of themselves in the future. And we're all undergoing our own journeys. We all want some type of transformation moving forward. We have mentors in our lives. We've all encountered some villain or obstacle or challenge, right? And we're all our own hero, right? So we actually understand this in our own life, which is why stories are so compelling and why we get them. So your question, you're like, great, Foster, that's awesome. Thanks so much. But how does this apply to my business? That's why I'm here. All right, so let's get into how it applies to your business. So got the structure, a human structure. Hero, villain, mentor, journey, and transformation. Hero is your customer. That's the key. The business isn't the hero. The hero is your customer. Villain is their challenge. The mentor, you got it. It's you. You, the business. The journey is the service or product journey that you take them on. And then the transformation is, well, that's the transformation. So that's the structure. The hero is your customer, and you are the mentor. They've got a challenge, take them on a journey, and they finally transform. So your question that you have in your business is, what is your transformation? So I kind of classify transformation into 3 different ways. There you go. 3 kinds of customer transformation. One is functional. That's so customers live better. I have an Alexa. She can't hear me because she's in a different room. Alexa's a very functional transformation. It's easier for me to pick up podcasts or music that I like, and news and stuff like that, right? I don't feel better because of Alexa. She just makes my life easier. And there's emotional transformations. That's so a customer feels better, right? I wear this shirt, I wear these shoes, and I just feel better. I get into my car and man, I feel like a better version of myself. I feel better when I wear this product. I feel better about myself. And finally, and the most powerful transformation of all is the moral transformation. That's so your customers become better, become a better version of themselves. That's what we all want. It's where Nike puts into their marketing and advertising. They're talking about moral transformation so we can be the best person, the best athlete we can be. Oh, and by the way, we sell shoes and shorts and shirts and other kind of stuff, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is to be the best thing, to be the best you that you can be, right? A moral transformation. Now, your business might have 2 or 3 or only 1. B2B usually is the functional transformation, but in B2B, an emotional transformation is also really important because you can either reduce stress, you can make their life easier, you can make them feel like they're competent or perhaps getting a promotion. For consumer products, moral transformations, if you can authentically talk about that, that's a great way to go. And there are some brands that are doing that really well. So these are the kinds of transformations that every business should be thinking about when bringing their customers on that journey. So let's look at a couple. We've got Lemonade, which is the insurance company. We have Procter & Gamble. They make the sexiest products. like Tide and Clorox and, Pampers. And then we have Always, right? So we are going to talk about these three brands, and I'm going to escape out of that. And I'm going to go into my YouTube. And firstly, we are going to go through the functional transformation. And you will see very quickly that they use the same structure. There's a hero, there's a villain, the mentor, lemonade, some kind of journey, and finally a transformation. And they do it all in 30 seconds.
Old insurance kind of sucks, but lemonade is different. When you pay us, we take a small flat fee. The rest goes to covering your stuff. So if something happens, we pay super fast. That's what you get when you have bots instead of brokers and algorithms instead of paperwork. Best part, leftover money goes to nonprofits you care about. Seriously, that's lemonade. Insurance powered by AI and driven by social good.
That's it, actually only 27 seconds. So the question is, who's the villain in that? Well, it's old insurance, because it kind of sucks, right? That was it. They just had to hit it. And then they take you on the journey. And then finally they talk about that transformation at the end. Very, very functional. A little bit of emotional, maybe, the social good at the end, okay. But really you do it because it's easy, because old insurance kind of sucks. And you've got AI and algorithms and bots instead of people and paperwork, right? That's your difference. All right, so this is another one. This is going to be P&G, and this is the emotional transformation. And if you're not crying after that, I can't help you. Right? It's so beautiful. It's beautiful. And they use the story structure perfectly, right? It's the hero, hero's mom. The villain, right? It's the tedium of the everyday. All right, baby, wake up. Okay, I'm going to make you breakfast. I'm going to clean the dishes now. I'm going to get you off to school. I'm going to go home. I'm going to do the laundry. I'm going to clean up the house. I'm going to pick you up from school. I'm going to bring you home. I'm going to cook you dinner. I'm going to wash the dishes. I'm going to put you in bed. And then I'm going to clean up everything. Then I'm going to wake you up. And then I'm going to make you breakfast. And I'm going to clean the dishes. And then I'm going to get you to school, right? Every day, moving forward. And so what P&G understands is, Tide's not a sexy product, but Tide helps this daily thing, right? It helps you get through the day to day. with products you can trust, with products you feel good about. They're easy to use. They help you get through to manage the daily management of life and child rearing. And then what a transformation and what a journey at the end. So your child doesn't have to worry about that. Your child's focused on their dreams and you get to live that together with them. But it's a really emotional transformation, and they did a brilliant job, and I think an authentic job. And then that was for the Olympics back in 2012, and then every Olympics since then, both summer and winter, they've got their own version of that. What does that mean to be mom, right? Either the strong, mom is strong, or mom is always there, or mom is here, right? And it's a wonderful understanding of a storytelling structure to convey their product and brand. The last one's a super powerful one. If you were crying over that one, you will be on this one. So this is the moral transformation. I've seen a lot of it. I'm hard pressed to find a better example yet. There are a lot of other examples, but this is a brilliant moral transformation. And we're going to start with always.
Hi. Okay, so I'm going to just give you some actions to do and just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Here. Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl. Aww.
My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. Sounds like a bad thing. Sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down, because during that time, they're already trying to figure themselves out. And when somebody says you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swim like a girl?
Keep doing it because it's working. If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. It doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl and I swim like a girl and I walk like a girl and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that's not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm going to do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Chance to redo it?
Why can't run like a girl also mean win the race?
Right. Anyway, so I love that. And I love the calls to action at the bottom. Share, tweet it, stand up. So they want you to do something with this now. And as the father of daughters, I really appreciated this the first time I saw it, because yeah, self-confidence drops when, certain ages, and there's no reason for it, right? It's all the stuff that they see and that's around them. And so when you think about what they're trying to do beyond just selling you product, they're trying to ask us to become better. right? That's the thing. That's the transformation that they're talking about. And that's where they want to tell their story. So I loved that. And thanks for sharing, or thanks for watching that. So that's it. That's why you've got your functional, your emotional, and your moral transformations. So now I know you might be thinking, gosh, well, that's awesome, Foster, thanks, but these are huge brands and they've got tons of cash. And so, you know, I can't do that as small business. And I will say, ha, not true. Of course you can, because the structure is exactly the same. So let's show how this applies in business. So here we go. This is a story of dreams. And I tell this story because one of my clients, not a very sexy company, right? He acknowledges that. And I did this presentation. I was telling him about this a while ago. And he said, man, but it doesn't apply to me. And I said, I bet it does. So his business is 401k management for employees, right? I mean, really sexy stuff, right? So he goes and tries and comes into businesses and says, hey, I'm going to sell 401k programs for your employees and let me present to them. That way they can help with that. It's like, okay, well, how does story structure work for them? So let's break it down. Instead of just saying, I've got, you know, a bunch of mutual funds and I can manage your money with a variety of mutual funds, it should get this kind of performance. Tell it like a story. Who's the hero? Well, it's Sabrina's mom and dad. Who's the villain? Tuition increases, right? Because tuition increases, we know, are rising faster than wages. We know that. Who's the mentor? Well, it's Jose Vicente. He's got a 4-step plan. And the transformation just isn't, oh, I want to get a good return on my mutual funds. No. The transformation is the dream of sending Sabrina to her choice school is real. So it's not just 401k, it could be 429 plans too, it doesn't matter, 529 plans, right? It doesn't matter. But the idea is that there's this transformation that you're thinking of, and that's the story he wants to tell. So like most parents, you want your child to become the best she can be. Okay, that's the hero, like most parents. So it's not just you as parent, but it's like most parents. And in today's world, that means a college education. However, we all face a steep challenge. Here's your villain, because tuition rates have increased faster than wages. Rats, and 71% of college students carry loans. A little bit of the data and statistics to help reinforce the villain is helpful. However, here comes the mentor. We're also parents. I've got empathy and I've got a plan, and my team and I understand the challenges facing parents who want to do their best for their kids' education without heaping up debt or saying no to a school that could propel them into adulthood. Okay, here's your plan. We offer a 4-step plan for realistic savings plans for 529s. We're with you every step of the way, because what's the important transformation? The dream of sending Sabrina to the school she chooses could be your happy ending. That's the transformation. That's the story that you're trying to tell. Here's another one. This is a story of problem solving. So this is our client, Zebo, and Zebo does one-stop shop for rental property and finances. It's online app, it's a dashboard. So if you own property, it's a really great way for you to manage all of that. So what does the story look like? So this is the creative brief that I put together. And look, there's the audience, their big challenge, the service, which is the journey, the story structure. You know, and then on the right side is the actual copy, but I put this in there. I put this into every creative brief I have. What is the story structure? Hero, challenge, mentor, journey, transformation. And in this case, the transformation is functional and emotional. Easy tools, free to start, no risk engagement, reduces stress and burden in managing the finances of your renters and properties, right? I bake this into every single creative brief because it helps me write the copy. And look, there it is. Simple, easy, free. It's how managing rental property finances should be. Managing rental finances from the palm of your hand, right? That's the transformation that I'm talking about. And it's so much easier for me to write the copy if I write the story structure first. Here's one more example. This is a story of connecting. So one of my favorite clients is Blue Canoe. She makes organic, made in the USA fashion that's eco-conscious, organic fair trade clothing. She's fantastic. And it's so funny, actually, the iStock photo almost looks exactly like the model, right? I thought that was hilarious. but she's terrific. And so the hero's Chloe, I just gave her a name, and the villain is the big clothing industry, right? Maybe it's the fast fashion industry, which is heavy pollutant, maybe not organic, surely not organic, maybe not super high quality, and kind of dissolves after a handful of washings. And I can't find what I want in the big clothing industry. So the mentor, Lori Dunlap, she's the CEO of Blue Canoe. The journey is eco-friendly organic clothing. The transformation, doing good, feeling better, and exerting the power of choosing my own brand, right? I don't have to fall in line with the big clothing industry. I can choose my own brand, and that's my transformation. That's my emotional transformation. Maybe there's a moral transformation too, of knowing that you're choosing organic clothing that's eco-friendly and made in the USA, right? So that's the transformation of the storyline. And this is how we do it. Although this is a postcard, this is a postcard retargeting where we can target website visitors and send postcards to those website visitors, much like digital retargeting, only it's postcards. And so we want to have a really tight space. It's 4 1/4 by 6. It's not that big. The space is tight. The story is brief, but all the elements are there, right? Our clothing reflect your lifestyle and your values. This is a story about the why and why they do business with people who believe what they believe. Note from the mentor, I had Lori send me her signature, assuring them that this path was made for them. And then also the testimonial and the social proof. It shows the success of another hero who went down that path and came back successfully, right? You can think of it not just as a review, but as a journey made by another hero to come back and say, yep, journey's fine. I totally did it. Great success. Take the journey with me, right? All the story elements are there, even though it's only a 4 1/4 by 6 card. But also too, you show the hero and remind her what she cares about. So there's the hero, right? There's Chloe or Francine or Sabrina or whomever, right? But that's that hero. The key takeaway is that story structures are the fastest and most effective way to engage your customers with an authentic audience. It takes some work to do it, but it's absolutely worth it, without a doubt. And here's some resources for you to finish up. Donald Miller wrote a fantastic book called Building a Story Brand, which is a very clear and easy to understand book. Before that was Winning the Story Wars, Why Those Who Tell and Live the Best Stories Will Rule the Future. And then, of course, if you really want to go to the source of it all, like the Mama Jama, is Joseph Campbell, A Hero with 1,000 Faces. It is a comparative religion and mythology text that shows the linkage between all the stories and all the heroes of all the cultures, and why storytelling is an absolutely human and universal approach. So there we go. And here's a little bit about Modern Postcard. Direct marketing services to businesses of all sizes and types. Printing, of course, direct mail marketing and integrated direct marketing, postcard retargeting, like I just mentioned, and then also digital direct marketing, geofencing, email, targeted display. And we'll talk more about integrated marketing channels in about a month. We've got some new services that can help you reach folks both online and offline in the same program. Again, you've got a free special offer, creating a story arc template, and I'll show you what this actually looks like. And I know that the fine folks at Green Rope are making that available to all of you, but here it is. Here's the story arc, creating a story arc, welcome. And this is an interactive PDF. So you can type in your stuff. That way you take it through. My hero is, he lives in a world that, but what do they want to do? What are they motivated by? But they're challenged by. So you can write this. And when you write this into your story structure, I guarantee you, it will help you with your messaging. Guaranteed. And I believe that now is the time for questions. Yes. So what questions?
Chris, that was so fantastic.
Thank you.
He says, thank you. That was really eye-opening.
Oh, great. Absolutely. 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 Yes. Use the template, please. It's what it's for, to help you out.
Yeah, we will be sure to include that in our follow-up email that goes out to everybody.
All right.
Well, Chris, thank you again for coming. If anybody has any questions, Heather says, this was great. Thank you. Thank you for coming, Heather. And we'll send this recording and the interactive PDF to all of our registered webinar attendees. Thank you so much for coming again, Chris. And I look forward to next month as well. I'm very excited for that.
All right.
Oh, wait.
Well, we'll see you next month for integrated marketing channels.
Yeah, we actually have one more question from Kimberly. She says, as an almost Gen Z, I can confirm that reviews are much more important than making messages, than marketing messages. Oh, I thought that was a question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's true. Absolutely. No, you're spot on. Absolutely. You're always going to listen to your peers rather than listening to the messages coming from the company that convincing you to buy. Always.
I loved the example so much that you used today too. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. Well, Chris, we will see you next month.
Sounds great.
It has been a complete pleasure.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.